Good morning and welcome to Arise Africa. My name is Michael Mwikamba. So we start off this show with the segment I like to call the catch-up. This is just where I give you stories that have been making headlines across the world this week. And starting us off, unknown gunmen hurled grenades at the Mandera County government offices on early Monday morning, destroying one side of the building. Confirming the incident to reporters, the Mandera County Commissioner Alex Olenkoyo said that the grenade explosion had extensive damage on the perimeter wall that shattered one side of the building. He said that the attackers were repulsed by the police officers guarding the building and the officers of the Kenya Police Reserve who responded at 2 a.m. to the attack. Olenkoyo, who said that the assailants were seemingly a large group that disappeared to the neighborhood, and also said that there were no casualties on the incident. He said that the attackers took cover behind the TB Mayata wing on Mandera County Referral Hospital that was before hurling the grenades to the county offices. The county county commissioner said that the cost of damage had not been established. And you can see on my screen, that is the charred remains of the building that was the county's that was the county offices. You can see a picture of the grenade that seemingly hurled to the building. It's just an example of the kind of damage it can do to a building once it's hurled. And you can the assailants are believed to be those of the Al-Shabaab, and that is what has been hitting Mandera County. That was made our first news. And moving on to other stories that are making headlines locally, Kenya police have arrested an official to the Somalia militant group of Al-Shabaab. Security reporters says that they believe that the suspect was a former journalist, Hassan Hanafi, who was accused of killing another journalist in Somalia. As sources says that the Al-Shabaab is an outlaw militia faction that is a faction of the Al-Qaeda and who carried out a spate of attacks in Somalia and Kenya. Last September, 67 people were killed in a group of fighters that raided and laid a siege on the upmarket Westgate shopping center in Kenya's capital of Nairobi. Mr. Hanafi, who believed to have been in Kenya for the medical treatment when he was swooped on by the police in a rare cross-border arrest, says the reporters. However, the man is still being interrogated by the Kenya anti-terror squad, and and they insist that he is a victim of mistaken identity and should not be released as any correspondence added. And about 20 journalists have been killed in Kenya over the several past weeks. On the screen, you can see attack on Somalia. That's where they say that it's an example of an attack, and you can see police are trying to guard. This should be Lamu. The environments are showing that this is Lamu, but then it's just an example of the kind of damage that the Al-Shabaab is posing in Kenya. And you can see that we can say that they're actually a faction of the big group called Al-Qaeda, who have been causing terror around the world. And moving on to another story, earthquake has struck South Africa, killing one person and injuring some of the gold miners in the southwest of Johannesburg. The person who died on the wall, after a wall of Orkney collapsed, but the person who died after a wall in Orkney collapsed, but the miners who were feared trapped in some of the shafts have been brought to the surface. The U.S. Geological Survey said that the 5.3 magnitude tremor near Orkney, that is the center of the gold mining operation, as the earthquakes were felt in the neighboring Botswana and Mozambique, where the Anglo Gold Ashanti say that 17 of his employees were injured and 2 of its mines in northwest following the earthquake, which hit a depth of roughly 8 kilometers. If you can calculate that into miles, it calculates to around 4.9 miles. And reporters say that the biggest earthquake to date was recorded at the magnitude of 6.3 in the west of Cape Town in Tamba in 1969, a place called Tamba. You can see the devastation that it has caused in South Africa, in Cape Town, after the earthquake of the magnitude if I can find that story, the earthquake of magnitude 5.3 that has affected the tremor in Orkney. And moving on to Senegal, President Macky Sall has announced the government, announced that the government will hold a memorandum in 2015 to decide whether the presidential mandate should be maintained several years to reduce to 5 years. He announced that the decision on Monday on the outgoing U.S.-Africa summit which was held by the state in Washington. And when the ex-president Adubai Wade came to power in the year 2000, he promised to reduce the mandate to 5 years, but has carried on with the first 7 years as stipulated by the Constitution. During his second hand of the mandate, he opted to serve 5 years and promised to amend the Constitution to reduce the term to 5 years, but he could not attain the goal up to the time of his defeat. Many local newspaper and columnists have described the President Sall's latest decision to hold a referendum in 2015 as a wise idea, and the decision has already begun reducing the tension over the belated decision on the reduction of the how many years he thought would have been taken to and literally by the leader. On screen you can see the photo of the president of Senegal, Macky Sall, who is trying to announce a referendum in 2015. And reporters and newspapers and local columnists in Senegal are saying that the latest decision for him to call a referendum in 2015 as a good idea. And moving on to another story now featuring in Gaza with the latest development in Gaza and Egypt. Indirect talks between Israeli and Palestinian representatives taking place in Egypt's capital of Cairo as they come to a 4-week conflict in Gaza that have claimed more than 1,900 lives. Egyptian mediators are shuttling between the two delegations, which are relaying each side of the demands. A 72-hour truce is now in the second day of Gaza, where the longest lull fighting since the conflict began on 8th of July, and the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has urged that both sides should use the ceasefire to move forward the borders of negotiations. And Mr. Kerry also told reporters the situation could concentrate the people's mind on the need to negotiate for the two-state solution. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands have been displaced in Gazans and have been returned to their home after the ceasefire. You can see the talks that are underway in Cairo, trying to deliberate the terms between Palestinian and Israeli to try and see if they can find a middle ground. And the negotiations are going. We can tell by the pictures and the concerns in Gaza, having killed 1,900 people in the last 4 weeks in the conflict. And moving on to, the talks in Egypt, nothing has been said yet, but we can only wait for other development as we go. And that made the few news segment this time. We take a short break, but when we come back, we bring you today's business.